His antics left the others dumbfounded. They had to give it to him. Lu Zhou, on the other hand, frowned. They waited until Zhu Honggong was at the center of the Great Hall. He kowtowed again. "Greetings, Master." Ming Shiyin glanced at Zhu Honggong and said, "Old Eighth, what's with all this fanfare? You're a disciple of the Evil Sky Pavilion. For crying out loud, aren't you afraid you'll shame the Evil Sky Pavilion's name with this display? I genuinely want to bow and salute my master. Ever since I returned to the Evil Sky Pavilion, I've never given master a proper bowing to. It's only natural for me to kneel 3 times and kowtow 9 times. Zhu Honggong replied. He had a point. Lu Zhou looked at Zhu Honggong again. Name, Zhu Honggong. Identity, human of Great Yan. Realm, nascent divinity tribulation realm. Vas. Although he had just recently obtained his 100 Tribulations Insight avatar, he was considered to be in the nascent divinity tribulation realm. It was not something a divine court realm cultivator could compare to. Stand up and speak, Lu Zhou said. Zhu Honggong stood up. He grinned and said, "Thank you, Master. Show me your avatar." This was a crucial moment. The ability to manifest 100 Tribulations Insight avatar was the difference between average cultivators and grand cultivators. Countless cultivators had failed at this stage. With the 100 Tribulations Insight avatar, the avatar's completeness and strength would determine the future of the cultivator. Little Yuana's avatar was extremely complete. It was full of spiritual energy and vigor. They had high hopes for it in the future. Some cultivators would have deformed 100 Tribulations Insight avatars. These avatars would be hard-pressed to even sprout leaves. Yes, Master. Zhu Honggong conjured up his primal chi and activated his avatar. An avatar that was half a man's height and resembled a fat toddler appeared. When the others saw this, they could hardly suppress their urge to laugh. The avatar took after its owner. Fat. However, the avatar's completeness was satisfying. It was also full of primal chi. Duan Xing was secretly shocked. The Evil Sky Pavilion's 8th disciple was so talented. Just how terrifying would he be in the future? There was no need to mention the 9th disciple. It was rumored that the 9th disciple, Si Yuan, had even more terrifying talents. She entered the Divine Court realm in just 5 years. Nobody had ever achieved that, nor would anybody achieve that in the future. Zhu Honggong looked at his own avatar proudly. He could not help but straighten his back. Zhao Yue was not envious, but she felt slightly ashamed. After all, she had joined the pavilion earlier than him. She was quite accomplished in her brilliant jade technique, and yet she had no breakthrough. When she saw Zhu Honggong's avatar, she could not help but feel a slight discomfort in her heart. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and nodded. He waved his hand. Swoosh! A silver box dropped before Zhu Honggong. When Zhu Honggong saw it, he was confused. Master, what's this? Lu Zhou waved his hand again. The box split in half. It was oddly shaped. I'm giving you the tear-stain boxing gloves. I hope you'll put 'em to good use. Lu Zhou said. Ever since the box was opened, Lu Zhou had been keeping it. After much thought, he felt that it was suited for Zhu Honggong's 9 Tribulations Thunderblast. Moreover, he needed to improve his disciples' cultivation bases as quickly as he could. When Zhu Honggong heard this, he was so filled with emotions that he cried and fell to his knees, thanking Lu Zhou profusely. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master. Duan Xing salivated at this sight. Zhao Yue was now genuinely envious. She was the only one without a weapon now. It was only natural that she felt envious. Perhaps, the weapon had a naturally high affinity with Zhu Honggong. He barely placed his hands on him when a click was heard. He put on the boxing gloves with much ease. Ding! Activated tear-stain box. Target owner, Zhu Honggong. Reward, 1.000 merit points. Congratulations, Mr. 8th. Duan Xing cupped his fists. Congratulations, old 8th. Ming Shiyin smiled as he walked up to Zhu Honggong's side and said, "This seems sturdy. Even eldest senior brothers Jasper Saber can't cut this. You've hit the jackpot." Have I? Zhu Honggong was stunned. He did not expect the item to be so amazing. Of course, why would I lie to you? Besides, do you think a weapon given by Master would be shabby? However, inwardly, Ming Shiyin thought to himself, the weapon is, indeed, sturdy, but it's too hideous. I'll have to compliment it some more. Zhu Honggong was overjoyed. I won't let you down, Master. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and nodded. He noticed that Zhu Honggong's loyalty had skyrocketed. It was now stable. This was also within his expectations. Zhu Honggong retreated to the side and toyed with his boxing gloves. Lu Zhou no longer bothered with Zhu Honggong. Instead, he shifted his gaze to Zhao Yue. Zhao Yue. Yes, master. Your cultivation base has deteriorated while you were in the palace. Lu Zhou said. Zhao Yue's face reddened. She felt ashamed. I'll work hard and not let you down. Master. Duan Xing smiled and said. I'm impressed that you're putting so much effort into your disciples. Old senior. Duan Xing, you've done well in Cloudshine Forest. Naturally, I won't mistreat you. How about this? You can make a request, and I'll do my best to fulfill it. Lu Zhou said. Duan Xing was delighted to hear this. He hastily bowed and said, I dare not. All the efforts I expended was sincere. I don't dare to take credit. Very well. Lu Zhou nodded. IL-11. Hold up. This isn't right. Aren't we supposed to exchange more pleasantries? What about my request? This. Will I have to bring it to my grave? Duan Xing was stunned. Lu Zhou looked at Duan Xing and said, if the Nether sect is tactful, they won't raise a hand against the Fiend Temple after this. Thank you, old senior. With this, at least the Fiend Temple's safety was guaranteed. As for his other requests, well, he did not dare to push his luck. Send our guest away. After Duan Xing left the Evil Sky Pavilion, Lu Zhou waved his arm and said, if there's nothing else, that'll be all for today. I'll take my leave, master. Safe journey, old senior. Lu Zhou stood up and returned to the Eastern Pavilion. Shoning Palace, Imperial City of the Divine Capital. Imperial Grandmother, Zhao Yue belongs to the Evil Sky Pavilion. You must be wary of her words. The prince who stood in the bedchamber was the heir apparent. Lu Ji. The Empress Dowager closed her eyes and did not look at Lu Ji. With a stern tone, she said, do you wish to see me die as well? Lu Ji's face fell. He kneeled at once and said, I dare not. I'm only worried that something bad might happen to you. If something were to happen to me, it would have happened in Obedient Villa. Is there a need to wait until now? The Empress Dowager slowly asked. Ever since the incident in Obedient Villa, she had a newfound dislike for all the princes. Lu Ji continued to kneel as he said, Imperial Grandmother, I will surely give you a satisfactory explanation regarding second brother. Please don't let this bother you. At this moment, Li Yongzhao, who had been standing at the side for a long time without saying anything, finally spoke up. Your Highness, I have something in my mind, but I wonder if it's appropriate to say it. Speak. Li Yongzhao was a famous person by the Empress Dowager's side. After all, Lu Ji had to take him seriously. The Empress Dowager's sickness can't be allowed to fester. Moreover, His Majesty has given his agreement. If you wish to fulfill your filial duty, Your Highness, you should be considerate of the Empress Dowager. Also, Li Yongzhao glanced around him before saying in a hushed tone, the Empress Dowager is still pained by the death of His Second Highness. Please don't bring this topic up. You have a point. Eunuch Li. Lu Ji stood up. He bowed and said, Imperial Grandmother, I have a close guard with a profound cultivation base. Since you're going, I'll leave him with you. November. L. B. J. N. N. That'll be all. The Empress Dowager's eyes were still closed as she waved her hand. Goodbye, Grandmother. Lu Ji retreated out of Shoning Palace. He barely took a step outside the palace when his guard came up to him. With his hands on his back, Lu Ji walked, and said, Tell Jiang Liang to escort my grandmother to the Evil Sky Pavilion. I will take care of his family. If he brings back Jiang Ijian's head, he'll be handsomely rewarded. Understood. Over the past week, Lu Zhou had been meditating on the heavenly writing scrolls in the Eastern Pavilion until his extraordinary power was completely replenished. After his extraordinary power was replenished, the only benefit from continuing to meditate upon was that he could increase the number of times he meditated upon them. However, Lu Zhou chose to stop. He opened his eyes. He called up the system dashboard and looked at his remaining life. 0.574 days. Breaking through to the 9-leaf stage would damage one's life. If I have enough reversal cards, can I overcome that? Lu Zhou wondered out loud. He had 22 reversal cards left. Lu Zhou casually used one. Like before, the life energy around the Eastern Pavilion gathered around him. Shortly after, it was done. As he expected, his remaining life was now 6.874 days. The 9-leaf stage was related to his longevity. In that case, the reversal card would be much more important. Lu Zhou looked at the price of the reversal cards again. Fortunately, it remained the same. After that, he looked at the 2 missions related to Yu Shangrong. The first one was Life of the Melilot, and the second was the new open heavenly writing scroll. Both missions were labeled as incomplete. What he could be sure of was that the Melilot was very much related to Yu Shangrong. Longevity sword. Lu Zhou thought about the sword. Meanwhile, inside the cave of reflection, Yu Shangrong sat with his legs crossed. The peculiar thing was the longevity sword glowed with a red radiance as if it sensed something. Faint red energy would appear from it and enter his body. BZZT, BZZ, BZZT. The longevity sword vibrated slightly. Night had fallen. The moon was bright. The longevity sword quietened down and remained motionless after that. Suddenly, Yu Shangrong gave a muffled grunt. A trail of blood appeared at the edge of his lips. He opened his eyes and sighed. He did not seem surprised by this. Like Si Wuya, he attempted to break the mantra after his cultivation base was restricted. Alas, it ended in failure. Si Wuya could not even find someone to break it for him even though he was resourceful. Let alone someone else. However, this was the common fault of men. They would never turn back before hitting the southern wall. Yu Shangrong looked at the longevity sword by his side. He shook his head and said, "I won't die yet." He closed his eyes again, focusing on his injury. Ding! Punished Yu Shangrong. Reward: 300 merit points. Trying to break the mantra. Are we? Yu Shangrong was startled by the voice. Master. Lu Zhou walked through the barrier with his hands on his back. He saw Yu Shangrong sitting cross-legged with blood trailing down the side of his lips. When Lu Zhou heard the notification from the system, he knew that Yu Shangrong had tried to break the binding mantra. It's futile, Lu Zhou said tonelessly. It's better than sitting here and doing nothing. Yu Shangrong replied. Lu Zhou sat down slowly on the stone bench. He pointed at the opposite stone bench and said, "Sit." Yu Shangrong was slightly taken aback. He was never treated this way throughout his time in the Evil Sky Pavilion before this. He looked at his master, who seemed calm and spoke in a largely different manner from before. He had trouble believing this. Finally, he rose to his feet before he sat on the stone bench opposite his master. The moonlight shone on the stone table. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and said, "Since you address me as master, you'll answer my question honestly. N-O, vel, B, in .c, Yu Shangrong frowned slightly. He did not know what his master would ask. He was instinctively fearful. Apart from the memories, I'll answer everything else. Lu Zhou had expected this. In truth, even if Yu Shangrong did not tell him about the memories, he could make his own inferences. Therefore, there was no need to force him. Have you tried to enter the 9-leaf stage? Lu Zhou asked. I have, Yu Shangrong replied honestly, as a cultivator. A peak 8-leaf cultivator. I'm standing before the doors of the 9-leaf stage. Nobody would be able to fight the curiosity to open the doors and sneak a peek. Alas, there's nothing but an endless night behind that door. I saw no future nor hope. Lu Zhou nodded. You're from Nobleman Nation. Your life is as fickle as the Melilot. When Yu Shangrong heard this, his heart skipped a beat. However, he quickly regained his composure. This was not some secret that he should be ashamed of. The Melilot was a plant unique to the Nobleman Nation to begin with. It had been mentioned several times lately. There was bound to be someone in the Evil Sky Pavilion who knew about it. At most, the 8-leaf stage can give you 500 years of life. Lu Zhou added. Suddenly, Yu Shangrong picked up his longevity sword. He was about to stand up, but he realized that his master was still seated on the stone bench with no intention of snatching the longevity sword from him. Lu Zhou stroked his beard. He had an expression that said that he had expected this much. Who can stop me if I want to take your weapon? He raised a palm. A gust of energy wind entered the cave. Yu Shangrong tightened his grip around the longevity sword. His cultivation base was sealed. How could he resist his master? Although Lu Zhou's cultivation base was only in the Dao transforming divine court realm, it was enough to deal with Yu Shangrong, whose cultivation base was sealed. Whoosh! The longevity sword flew into Lu Zhou's hand. Yu Shangrong lunged as he tried to take the sword back. Lu Zhou waved his hand. An energy wall kept Yu Shangrong at bay. Zing! Lu Zhou drew the longevity sword. The blade had a faint reddish glow. Shortly after, Lu Zhou felt the life energy on the longevity sword. The immortal ties my hair and wishes me a long life. Lu Zhou appraised the longevity sword. It was said that the longevity sword would absorb some life energy every time it took a life. Lu Zhou was now certain that it was true. It was no wonder that Yu Shangrong valued the longevity sword this much. He was depending on this sword to live. This sword was his life. Master, Yu Shangrong fell to his knees. Lu Zhou shook his head and said, "Is this your secret to a long life?" When he gave Yu Shangrong the longevity sword, he did not know that it was capable of this. Throughout the years, Yu Shangrong was, perhaps, the only person who knew how much time and effort he had put into this sword. The melilot blooms in the morning and wilts at night. I had no choice, Yu Shangrong said. Do you really think that you can live a long life with the sword? The longevity sword can't do that. All it can do is grant me the same lifespan as any other cultivator. Yu Shangrong replied honestly. To think that living for a millennium was also wishful thinking for an 8-leaf cultivator. Zing! The longevity sword was returned to its scabbard. Lu Zhou waved his arm. The energy wall vanished. Lu Zhou tossed the sword back to Yu Shangrong. He said with a sigh, "The longevity sword can't overcome the millennium limit as well." Yu Shangrong caught the longevity sword and regarded his master with surprise. He did not expect his master to return the sword to him. He remained silent. Lu Zhou turned to look at Yu Shangrong and said, "Do you despise me?" "I dare not," Yu Shangrong responded. "Yu Shangrong." Lu Zhou suddenly called out his name. Yu Shangrong's heart skipped a beat. He tightened his grip around the longevity sword again. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and said indifferently, "I can tell you now that I'm going to kick the doors to the 9-leaf stage open." Yu Shangrong was stunned. Lu Zhou waved his sleeve and left the cave of reflection. At this moment, the longevity sword and vibrated before its power rippled into the surroundings. Yu Shangrong's brows were tightly knitted together. Yu Shangrong pressed the longevity sword down. He murmured to himself, "I've said that I would live in seclusion after the battle with eldest senior brother. Why must I be forced to do this?" He looked in the direction his master had left and sighed softly. "The remaining life energy, I can do without. You'll be buried with me when I die." Yu Shangrong raised the longevity sword and gauged the remaining life energy. The blade had a red glow, but unfortunately, it was much fainter than before. Yu Shangrong returned to the depths of the cave of reflection. He sat with his legs crossed and no longer tried to break the mantra. 3 days later, a flying chariot departed from the divine capital. It avoided places where humans dwelled. It was headed for the evil sky pavilion. On the flying chariot, Lu Yongzhao, who was standing next to the Empress Dowager, said, "Empress Dowager, don't worry, I've been in contact with the evil sky pavilion's master before this. He isn't a villain who kills without rhyme or reason. Moreover, Princess Xiao Yue is his disciple. If he had been as evil as rumored, Princess Xiao Yue would never return to the evil sky pavilion so easily." The divine capital was protected by the 10-terminal formation. Cultivators who wanted to cause trouble would not simply enter the divine capital. The Empress Dowager reclined in her seat and said, "I feel relieved hearing that." At this moment, Jiang Liang appeared at the flying chariot's helm. With his arms crossed, he said, "Empress Dowager, a villain will always be a villain. We should still be careful." Li Yongzhao said disapprovingly, "Jiang Liang, you've been with His Highness, the Crown Prince, for many years, so there's so much that you don't know. Do enlighten me." Eunuch Li. During the battle on Lotus Dais, the evil sky pavilion's patriarch fought against malicious forces and saved many cultivators who were present. News of this has long been circulating in the cultivation world. One more thing, apart from the evil sky pavilion's first disciple, Yu Zhenghai, the names of the other disciples have already vanished from the black roll. Lu Yongzhao said, "I hope that's true." Jiang Liang nodded. "I am aware of your profound cultivation base, but let me warn you. When we're at the evil sky pavilion, do not do anything rash. If you do, not even I or the Empress Dowager can save you." Li Yongzhao wanted to dissuade him from doing anything reckless. "Eunuch Li, you're overthinking. My mission is only to ensure the Empress Dowager's safety." Jiang Liang replied, "That would be best." At this moment, the Empress Dowager, who was reclining on her chair, spoke with an extremely tranquil tone. "Jiang Liang." Jiang Liang bowed at once and said, "Empress Dowager, I heard that you have a profound cultivation base. They're all compliments that I don't deserve. What do you think Eunuch Li's cultivation base is like?" The Empress Dowager's tone was gentle, as though there was nothing odd about her question. Well, Jiang Liang gave it some thought before answering. If we were to fight with our full strength, I won't be a match for Eunuch Li. If we were to fight with other methods, I think I stand a chance. Li Yongzhao laughed and said, Empress Dowager, you might not be informed, but bodyguard Jiang once infiltrated the Li nation in Rongbei and assassinated its monarch all on his own. That's a phenomenal achievement. Nobody whom bodyguard Jiang has marked would survive. The Empress Dowager laughed and said, in that case, you're a precious talent for Great Yan. I hope that you'll serve the imperial court well. Jiang Liang bowed and said, I give my heart to the imperial court. Eunuch Li has served me for many years, and I trust in his judgment. You should heed his advice as well. The Empress Dowager said, as you command. The flying chariot continued to fly toward the evil sky pavilion. Eunuch Li looked around himself. He walked up to Jiang Liang and he beckoned him over. Bodyguard Jiang. Jiang Liang was slightly stunned. He wondered what was the need for Eunuch Li's secrecy. He followed him. There were 2 imperial physicians on board the flying chariot. They were considered cultivators as well. There was nothing much to worry about with them looking after the Empress Dowager. They went to the other side of the flying chariot. Li Yongzhao said, I have something sincere I'd like to talk to you about. Bodyguard Jiang, let's hear it. Eunuch Li. Li Yongzhao did not beat around the bush. Bodyguard Jiang, what kind of mission has the Crown Prince given you in the Evil Sky Pavilion? Jiang Liang was taken aback by Li Yongzhao's candidness. He asked, why would you say that? Eunuch Li, you're skilled in assassination. If the Crown Prince truly intends to protect the Empress Dowager, why does he have to send you? Jiang Lang was at a loss for words. Li Yongzhao smiled and said, do you know why His Majesty isn't worried that the Empress Dowager is going to the Evil Sky Pavilion? Jiang Liang shook his head. He was also puzzled by that. The Empress Dowager was an important and venerated person of the empire. Yet, she was now venturing toward the dangerous Evil Sky Pavilion. He was surprised to learn that His Majesty had approved this. It had been bugging Jiang Liang for a long time. Li Yongzhao said, that's because the Evil Sky Pavilion Master, Ji Tiandao, is an acquaintance of the late Emperor. Jiang Liang's eyes widened upon hearing this. He did not expect the great villain, who was despised by the general public, would have such a relationship with the late Emperor. He asked, if they're acquaintances, why does the Evil Sky Pavilion act like the imperial family's enemy? I was told that there were several such incidents. You're wrong, Li Yongzhao said solemnly. I'm wrong. The Evil Sky Pavilion has never treated the imperial family as its enemy. The ones creating conflict are its first and 7th disciple, Yu Zhenghai and Si Wuya. Li Yongzhao answered. Jiang Liang was confused. Eunuch Li, just be straight with me. I'm but a crude martial man. My brain isn't trained for this. Li Yongzhao nodded. It's as I said earlier. I advise you to show restraint when you're in the Evil Sky Pavilion. If things go wrong, even His Highness, the Crown Prince, can't help you, let alone the Empress Dowager. You should weigh the pros and cons. He left with a flick of his sleeves after he finished speaking. Stunned, Jiang Liang furrowed his brows. Rooted to the spot. Near dusk, the Evil Sky Pavilion. Lu Zhou was studying the great longevity limit in the Eastern Pavilion. The desk before him was covered in books. The female disciples would make periodic trips to the Eastern Pavilion as well, carrying books in their arms. Pavilion Master, we've carried all the books related to life here. Lu Zhou did not look at them as he said, all right. At this moment, little Yuana's voice reached him from the outside. Master, the flying chariot from the divine capital is here. 5th senior sister has gone over to greet them. Master, you're reading. Little Yuana walked into the Eastern Pavilion and saw books piled up on the table. Lu Zhou merely picked a few and flipped through them. He did not have the energy to go through the other books. He looked up and glanced at little Yuana. Then, he said, Yuana, yes, Master. Keep an eye on the Cave of Reflection. Report to me immediately if there's anything amiss. Lu Zhou said, yes, Master. Little Yuana left the Eastern Pavilion after receiving her mission. Lu Zhou shifted his gaze to the books before himself. He mumbled, the people of Nobleman Nation have short lives. Hence, they cultivated to prolong their existence. The longest living of them all is only about 500 years old. In other words, although Yu Shangrong had the longevity sword, he would only live half as long as ordinary cultivators. While Lu Zhou was deep in thoughts, Ming Shi Yin stopped outside the Eastern Pavilion, bowed, and said, The visitors from the divine capital are waiting in the Great Hall. N.O. Vel. B. J.N.C. All right. Lu Zhou waved his sleeve and exited the Eastern Pavilion. Inside the Great Hall, Lu Zhou swept his gaze across the people gathered there. Almost everyone was present. Li Yongzhao and the others stood in the middle. Behind Li Yongzhao, Zhao Yue and one of the imperial physicians were supporting a poised and noble old woman. Jiang Aijian's eyes were trained on the old woman. Have a seat. Lu Zhou was not being considerate of the imperial family, but of Jiang Aijian and Zhao Yue. He did not assume his seat on the throne but sat opposite the Empress Dowager. Li Yongzhao knew this was the evil sky pavilion and not the palace or anywhere else. The protocols of the palace did not apply here. The Empress Dowager was old enough to overlook these matters. When she looked at Lu Zhou, her eyebrows moved slightly. Her tired eyes seemed to have discovered something as she straightened up. She said gently, "Old mister, you resemble an old acquaintance of mine." Lu Zhou stroked his beard and remained silent. Many years ago, Ji Tiandao had met the ever-living emperor and the Empress Dowager. They were all in their prime back. Things and people had changed with the passage of time. He did not expect the Empress Dowager to recognize him. Who said she was visually impaired and senile? However, that was not important. Lu Zhou waved his hand and said, "Those who have no business here should leave." Many of the others wanted to watch the proceedings, but they had no choice but to leave the Great Hall for the time being. Li Yongzhao, the imperial physicians, and Jiang Liang did not leave. Jiang Aijian and Zhao Yue remained within the Great Hall as well. Lu Zhou looked at the Empress Dowager. Perhaps it was due to the extraordinary power. He felt that his mental state and optical strength were much better compared to before. He could see the faint purple gas the Empress Dowager's body emitted. Indeed, it was witchcraft. It was not a life-threatening spell, but it would cause worry and unrest, making it difficult to sleep. It seemed that Ba Ma and Mo Li did not dare to take it out on the Empress Dowager. This was nothing but a trick of theirs. When Li Yongzhao saw Lu Zhou keeping quiet, he said, "Well, tell the old mister what the situation is." The imperial physician standing on the left shuddered. All his years in the palace, he had never encountered such a situation. How could he not be afraid of the old man before him? Nevertheless, he replied in a trembling voice, Oh, old mister, the Empress Dowager, since she returned from Obedient Villa, has trouble falling asleep." Lu Zhou raised a hand and interjected, "There's no need for an explanation. I know what's going on with the Empress Dowager." N.O. Vel. B. J.N.C. Upon hearing this, the two imperial physicians exchanged a look. They were the cream of the crop among the imperial family's healers. Although their cultivation base could be considered weak, they were quite skilled in medicine. They had been researching for years. But the evil sky pavilion did not even need an explanation. This was too much a blow to them. Li Yongzhao bowed and asked, "Old mister, do you have any remedies for this?" Lu Zhou stood up with his hands on his back and replied, "Naturally, I have a way to get rid of this ailment." Li Yongzhao bowed as soon as he heard Lu Zhou's words. "Please do whatever you can." "Old mister." Zhao Yue bowed. "Master." Jiang Aijian said, "Old senior." Lu Zhou said, "I have something that I must tell you." Empress Dowager. When the Empress Dowager heard this, she was slightly taken aback. She looked at Lu Zhou, who was standing with his hands on his back, with her old eyes. "Let's hear it, old mister." Lu Zhou said, "I can free you of the ailment. But your great limit is approaching. You should prepare yourself for it." The Great Hall was plunged into silence if they were in the palace. The statement would have been considered as a serious offense that warranted immediate beheading. The two imperial physicians, however, lowered their heads simultaneously. It was impossible for them to not be aware of this. Zhao Yue and Jiang Aijian's expressions changed slightly. They looked at the Empress Dowager, reluctant to believe what they had just heard. Contrary to expectations, the Empress Dowager laughed heartily. She waved her hand and said, "That's it. This is all part of the natural cycle of life. It's natural to die one day. It's nothing." Lu Zhou turned to look at the Empress Dowager. It seemed like he had wanted to say something but changed his mind in the end. He only shook his head and said, "Forget it. I'll respect your decision." Then, he waved his arm. The two imperial physicians retreated to the side hastily. At this moment, Lu Zhou raised his palm and struck at the air. The others watched unblinkingly. Their hearts were hanging by a thread. A A surge of faint blue power emerged from Lu Zhou's palm. Whoosh! Meanwhile, in an unknown dark and gloomy room, Balma's eyes snapped open. He frowned. The spell has been broken. A surprised expression could be seen on his face. Indeed, the imperial family can't be underestimated. Mo Li, oh, Mo Li, you spent all those years in the palace in vain. To think you weren't even aware of what the imperial family is capable of. Balma shook his head and sighed. However, you can rest assured, I'll certainly send him over to where you are. A shocked expression appeared on everyone's faces. Lu Zhou had broken the spell from a distance. The Empress Dowager gave a muffled grunt. Frowning slightly, the purplish gas was instantly dispersed by the blue energy. Lu Zhou was not surprised at all. The heavenly writing's extraordinary power was a natural bane for witchcraft spells. He had confirmed this a long time ago. Li Yongzhao quickly supported the Empress Dowager and asked, Empress Dowager, how are you feeling? I'm all right. The Empress Dowager's eyes were closed. She was sweating slightly, and her voice sounded hollow. The two imperial physicians went over at once. They bowed before they checked the Empress Dowager's pulse and examined her. After a round of examination, one of the imperial physicians fell to his knees and said, Many congratulations, Empress Dowager, the spell has been broken. Lu Zhou stroked his beard with an apathetic expression on his face. If I can't even break this minor spell, I should be ashamed of myself. He did not even look at Li Yongzhao as he called out. Li Yongzhao. Li Yongzhao's respect for Lu Zhou had risen another level at this moment. He immediately responded, Yes, old mister. The Empress Dowager has just recovered from her ailment. She should rest in the southern pavilion for now and return tomorrow. Lu Zhou said, That's great, thank you, old mister. Li Yongzhao, who was kneeling, began to kowtow. Jiang Liang and the two imperial physicians were shocked by this display of obeisance. Although Li Yongzhao was only an attendant eunuch, he enjoyed a high status. He did not even show the crown prince such courtesy. Lu Zhou merely glanced at Li Yongzhao and waved his hand, dismissing him. Li Yongzhao and the imperial physicians supported the Empress Dowager as they left the Great Hall. Zhao Yue made the arrangements, and they were lodged in the southern pavilion. It was almost dusk. Inside the southern pavilion, Li Yongzhao stood respectfully by the bed. He looked at the Empress Dowager, who seemed healthier now, and said, Empress Dowager, you look much better compared to this morning. The Empress Dowager leaned on the headboard and said, It's all thanks to Zhao Yue. Princess Zhao Yue has already returned to the imperial family. There's no need to blame yourself for this. Empress Dowager, Li Yongzhao said. Little Li. The Empress Dowager paused slightly before she said again, Bring me my belongings. Li Yongzhao was slightly stunned. He shook his head helplessly. He fetched a brocade box from the luggage they brought with them. He presented it to the Empress Dowager and said, Empress Dowager, these are your longevity pills. Are you really going to do this? The Empress Dowager said with a sigh, There are many in this world who seek to live a long life. The evergreen, even the ever-living emperor. Yet, I think it's a form of happiness as well to live out one's life naturally. I understand. Li Yongzhao bowed. When my time comes, bury me with the ever-living emperor. Hold a funeral for me. And I'll be content, the Empress Dowager said. Li Yongzhao shook his head and said nothing. The Empress Dowager passed the brocade box to Li Yongzhao and said, Give this to the old mister. This will be a token of our gratitude. All right, after you leave, call Zhao Yue over. I'd like to talk to her. All right. Li Yongzhao left the room. Inside the Eastern Pavilion, Li Yongzhao entered the pavilion with Ming Shiyin in tow. Under the decree of the Empress Dowager, I'm here to thank you, old mister. The Empress Dowager has ordered me to present this to the Evil Sky Pavilion. Kindly accept this, old mister, Li Yongzhao said. He bowed before he presented the brocade box with both hands. Ming Shiyin said, Master, their longevity pills. Longevity pills. As their name suggested, they were pills that could extend a person's life. It was rumored that they were made from extremely rare materials and were created by powerful cultivators via a meticulous process in a harsh environment. Even the core heart sect that specialized in refining pills only managed to refine a handful of longevity pills in the millennium. Some cultivation sects established themselves in the cultivation world by making such pills. A single longevity pill could extend a person's life by 100 years. However, the effects would deteriorate the older the user became. Hence, even longevity pills could not help cultivators overcome the 1.00-year limit. Regardless, longevity pills were still highly sought after by many cultivators. After all, not every cultivator could actually live to their life limit. Bring it here. Lu Zhou's voice was commanding and deep. Li Yongzhao passed the brocade box to Ming Shi Yin, who carefully received it and placed it on the table before his master. When he saw that his master was resting his spirits with his eyes closed, he did not dare to disturb him. I'll take my leave. Li Yongzhao's assignment was completed. He left the Eastern Pavilion. I'll take my leave as well, Master, Ming Shi Yin said before he respectfully left the room. Outside the Eastern Pavilion, Ming Shi Yin pulled Li Yongzhao and said, Hey, eunuch Li, wait up. Li Yongzhao frowned. Please, eunuch Li, do you have any more of that longevity pill? Ming Shi Yin asked once he caught up with Li Yongzhao. Li Yongzhao shook his head and said, What are you talking about? Longevity pills aren't sold in the store. You know, there are no extras. That was the only one. Even then, it was left behind by the late emperor after searching far and wide across the lands. The Empress Dowager has refrained from consuming it all this time. If it had been anybody else, it would have been long gone. Ming Shi Yin said helplessly, All right, however, I think you're a great person. My master has searched for longevity pills before as well. Alas, only one was found. Li Yongzhao smiled and said, Old Mister has helped us greatly. It's only natural to thank him in kind. Ming Shi Yin nodded and said, You're good with words as well. All right, enough of this chatter. I'm feeling sleepy. He stretched his limbs and walked toward the southern pavilion. Lu Zhou opened his eyes slowly. He looked at the brocade box before his eyes. He shook his head and sighed. Why would I need this? He waved his hand slightly and the brocade box opened with a click. Ding! Obtained longevity pill X1. Can be refined again to raise its quality. When Lu Zhou heard this notification, he was slightly surprised. He did not expect that the longevity pill could be refined. He placed the longevity pill in his hand. When it touched his skin, a warmth immediately spread across his palm. It was an exceptionally wonderful sensation. Its quality and purity are acceptable. The energy as well. Lu Zhou appraised the quality of the longevity pill. Although he was not an expert in refining pills, he knew many things about it. From his memories, he knew Ji Tiandao had searched for the pills many times. He had some rough understandings about anything that had to do with prolonging his life. The problem was, even if the quality is raised, it won't have any effect on me. Right. He could hear the reversal cards saying that even the highest grade of longevity pills was nothing. He gave it some thought. Although he did not have any need for it, he could still keep it for his disciples. He raised his hand. A refining talisman appeared before it combusted. Lu Zhou did not seem to hesitate when he tossed the pill into the fire. A short while later, he had completed the refining process. Ding! Obtained a high-grade longevity pill. Reward: 500 merit points. A refining talisman for 500 points. That's not too bad. A high-grade longevity pill could extend a person's life by 200 years. The caveat was that said person's great limit was not within the next 200 years. Otherwise, the longevity pill would not have much of an effect. In other words, it would have been a waste if Lu Zhou consumed it. He put the pill away and entered his heavenly writing meditation state. Night fell. The skies were dotted with stars. A black figure could be seen shooting toward the southern pavilion. The feet of the black figure did not touch the ground. His movement was silent. The door of the room easily opened, as though it was pushed open by a gentle breeze. Bam! 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 A cold light flashed for a moment before eerie energy blades stabbed into the bed. The black figure immediately realized that the bed was not occupied. He retreated as quickly as he could. Then, he heard a voice from above. Comrade, you're late. Mind joining me up here to watch the moon? The black figure looked up. He decided to give up there and then. He turned around and vanished. Jiang Ijian, who was sitting on the roof, could not help but feel slightly taken aback. So fast. N-O-V-E-L-B, in.C, The black figure moved away from the area, shooting past the corridor and the plaza. Just as he was about to leave the southern pavilion, a mocking voice rang from above him. Hey, there, where are you going in the dead of night? The black figure looked up and saw Ming Shi Yin hanging upside down on the thick beam of the entrance. He was hanging between the words, Southern Pavilion. The black figure was not nervous. He changed directions decisively. With a leap, he made his way to the Western Pavilion. He could only reach the Northern Pavilion from the Western Pavilion. From the Northern Pavilion, he could go down the mountain. He did not fly. He stuck to the ground, rooftops, and the various buildings. His movements were nimble and swift. He had just entered the Western Pavilion when he smelled the aromatic scent of booze. "Who's there? Come, join me for a drink." The black figure frowned. He changed direction again. There were 4 pavilions. The Eastern Pavilion was out of the question since the old villain was there. However, he had no way to get to the Northern Pavilion. After mulling it over, he leaped into the air and decisively flew toward the Northern Pavilion. However, as he flew, he realized something was amiss. Why aren't they giving chase? The thought had just appeared in his mind when a yellow feathered arrow sailed across the sky like a meteor. Boom! The black figure caught it with one hand and somersaulted in the air. Then, about 10 more energy arrows came at him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. They resembled a fireworks display. Bam, bam, bam. The black figure moved nimbly and tried to avoid the incoming attacks. He dodged the energy arrows as he dove down and landed near the Northern Pavilion. A hoarse voice reached his ears. "How does it feel to be surrounded?" The black figure saw another black figure facing him with his back. Then, the figure turned around slowly. The moonlight shone on the person's face. He wore a silver mask. Leng Luo's hoarse voice rang in the air. "Li Yongzhao warned you not to act recklessly." "I had no choice," the black figure replied. "Even I have to abide by the rules here. Let alone you. Do you think that you'll do better than me?" Leng Luo's tone was calm, but every single word struck home. The black figure said, "I know it's difficult, even if it means death." Death. The black figure lowered himself slowly. "That's too early to say." Whoosh! A black mist appeared and the black figure vanished. Whiz! A huge avatar that was 100 feet tall suddenly materialized before Leng Luo. Energy spilled into his surroundings. Boom! The avatar shrunk at an extreme speed. Dao invisibility of the other tribes. Leng Luo cultivated Dao invisibility himself. He knew what this skill meant. Hence, before the black figure disappeared, he used the instant burst of energy to attack his surroundings. It was now quiet. At this moment, Jiang Aijian and the others arrived. Pan Lishan sauntered over as well. "Old Leng, can you handle this or what?" Pan Lishan asked lazily. Hu Yuxing hovered in midair. The energy bow in her hand vanished. Jiang Aijian said, "No way. A person of the same trade. Tui. We're not of the same trade. I mean, he got away." Ming Shi Yin spread his arms. "You guys had to insist on a game of catching the mice and bet on the direction he would take. Happy now?" Leng Luo raised his hand to silence the others. "I've injured him. He won't get far." Pan Lishan was nonchalant. He lazily took a sip of wine before saying, "Little Eye, there's no need to worry. He won't get away." "Who are you calling Little Eye?" "My name's FC King Jiang Aijian." That man must have cultivated the Dao invisibility skill of the other tribes. Leng Luo said, "During the golden years, many other tribesmen cultivated the cultivation methods of Great Yan. Among the various methods, the other tribes managed to create an extreme escaping technique with the Dao invisibility. Doesn't this mean he'll get away?" Jiang Aijian widened his eyes. That man had come to assassinate him. The others were nonchalant, but Jiang Aijian was not. "He won't get away." Pan Lishan laughed and said, "We'll have to see who gets to catch this rat first." Hua Wudao said, "Elder Leng has struck him too harshly. How could he get away after the instant blast of primal chi from the 100-foot avatar? It's boring to catch a rat like that." Despite his words, he moved quickly into the distance, unleashing his 6 compatible seals. Leng Luo looked up at Hua Yuxing who was in the air. "The air is your territory. I'll leave it to you." Hua Yuxing felt invigorated. She cupped her hands and said, "Rest assured, Elder Leng, let's see if he dares to show up in the air." Leng Luo stepped forward with his hands on his back and disappeared in a blink of an eye. Speechless, Jiang Aijian looked around himself. "Fellow friends, how can you be so flippant? I'm relying on you. Can you be more serious about this?" Ming Shi Yin patted his shoulder. He rolled his eyes and said, "You're a 5-leaf elite, aren't you? So what if I'm a 5-leaf cultivator? Can't a 5-leaf cultivator be afraid?" Jiang Aijian complained inwardly. Outwardly, he said, "You're right, Brother Ming. Thank you for the reminder. Go away, don't get too close to me. I think you can have a good conversation about life with my 8th junior brother." We're not the same kind of people. You and I. You don't have the strength of character or the moral backbone. Do you understand? Ming Shi Yin vanished after he finished speaking. IL-11. At the back of the mountain. Outside the cave of reflection. Under the darkness of the night. Nothing could be seen. A black figure with a hand pressed on his chest looked in the direction of the cave of reflection. He cautiously surveyed his surroundings. When he was certain he was alone, he began to move slowly. At this moment, a golden gourd bottle sailed through the air. The black figure stayed close to the ground. He hid his aura when he saw the golden gourd. After the golden gourd disappeared, he looked up. He had underestimated the power of the evil sky pavilion. He could sense powerful energies barring his routes of escape in all directions. The back of the mountain was the only option left for him. The black figure suppressed his surging chi and blood as he could before he picked up pace. At this moment, Yu Shangrong, who was sitting with his legs crossed and eyes shut, as he adjusted his condition, moved his ears. Who's there? Swoosh. The figure entered the barrier and moved to Yu Shangrong's side. Jiang Liang stayed in the divine capital most of the time. He would only leave when he was on a mission. He knew a thing or two about the evil sky pavilion. Unfortunately, he did not know the person before him. He had assumed since the man before him was imprisoned here, the man must be an enemy of the evil sky pavilion. Don't make a sound, otherwise, you'll die. Jiang Liang held one hand against his chest as he looked at Yu Shangrong. A suspicious expression appeared on his face as he probed the man before him. He could not sense any primal chi from the man, causing him to relax. Comrade, you're hurt. Yu Shangrong's voice was as gentle as usual. Jiang Liang frowned deeply and said, "You're captured by the evil sky pavilion." "That's right," Yu Shangrong answered honestly. "Why didn't you run away?" Jiang Liang asked. "Run away?" Yu Shangrong shook his head and said with a smile. "If I could, I would have done that a long time ago. Why would I have to wait until now?" Jiang Liang nodded. "Looks like I've underestimated the evil sky pavilion." After all, Yu Shangrong was just about to stand up when Jiang Liang interjected in a deep voice. "Don't move. Are you afraid? I've alerted many elites of the evil sky pavilion. Any movement will catch their attention now. If I die, I'll take you with me," Jiang Liang said. Yu Shangrong looked at the night sky outside and said, "You want to kill me?" Jiang Liang appraised Yu Shangrong again. The moonlight fell upon Yu Shangrong's face. Jiang Liang thought that Yu Shangrong looked gentle. He said, "I'm only trying to save my own skin. Don't resent me for this. There's no need to be afraid. Comrade, if this had happened in the past, you wouldn't have lasted a single breath before me," Yu Shangrong said. Jiang Liang frowned again. He scoffed before he said, "If it weren't for my injuries due to my carelessness, I'm confident I'll be able to escape." Yu Shangrong shook his head. "You're underestimating the evil sky pavilion." "What do you mean? Even if I have my cultivation base, it'd be impossible for me to escape this place, let alone someone like you," Yu Shangrong said calmly. Jiang Liang, naturally, disagreed. "Speak for yourself. Overconfidence and conceit are the downfall of men." Yu Shangrong recalled his master's words. It seemed like master's words made sense. Jiang Liang looked outside, alert, as he said flippantly, "A lowly prisoner like you can't compare to me. We can't even be mentioned in the same breath." Yu Shangrong smiled and rose to his feet. "I'm sorry. You've picked on the wrong person." Yu Shangrong's words were simple. Jiang Liang was baffled by Yu Shangrong's words. Yu Shangrong took a step forward. Jiang Liang lunged. His dagger gleamed coldly in his hand. At this moment, Yu Shangrong drew his sword. Unsheathing the longevity sword, he brought it up in a 45-degree upward motion. Whoosh! The sword was sheathed again. N-O-V-E, in.C, The series of movements flowed smoothly and naturally like water. The battle had ended. Clack! Jiang Liang's dagger broke in half. One half dropped to the ground. The remaining half was still in his grasp. His eyes were brimming with terror. He felt that his sea of chi had been pierced. Moreover, he felt as though his lower left abdomen to his right shoulder had been slashed. There was a slender cut that crossed his sea of chi and was slowly spreading. The person did not use primal chi at all. Did he manage that with his physical strength alone? Jiang Liang turned to look at the longevity sword at the side. It emitted a faint red glow before it disappeared. It was clear that the sword was an extraordinary heaven-grade weapon. Yu Shangrong shook his head with slight dissatisfaction. Under normal circumstances, you would have died instantly. I'm sorry to draw out your pain. Blood stained his clothes. Jiang Liang said, if I hadn't been heavily injured, you couldn't have touched me. If you weren't injured, Yu Shangrong only smiled faintly. He returned to his original spot and sat with his legs crossed before he closed his eyes to rest his spirits. He no longer spoke after that. Jiang Liang's life was seeping away. With a thud, he slumped to the ground. The instant his sea of qi was cut open, he no longer had the ability to conjure up his primal qi. On top of that, he was injured. He could only wait for his death now. He was not content with this outcome. When he was on the brink of death, he looked at Yu Shangrong, who was sitting cross-legged across from him. He asked, who are you? I'll remember. The name of the person who kills me. Yu Shangrong opened his eyes slightly and glanced at Jiang Liang. He smiled faintly again. My name is Yu Shangrong. Jiang Liang chuckled inwardly. If he wasn't injured, now he knew that nothing would have changed even if he weren't injured. If he were not injured, and Yu Shangrong had access to his cultivation base, he would have died in a gruesome manner. At this moment, countless thoughts flashed through Jiang Liang's head. Whether it was regret, desperation, or a chance to escape, none of those mattered now. Before he breathed his last breath, he uttered his final word. Good. His head lolled to the side, and he breathed no more. The night was still, and the moonlight was enticing. After an unknown period of time, the moonlight shone into the cave of reflection again. Yu Shangrong's long hair was now half white. Yu Shangrong opened his eyes slowly. He lowered his head and looked at the hair on his shoulders. He was not shocked by it. He closed his eyes again. There was a huge wave of energy outside the cave of reflection. Sometime later, a voice rang from outside the cave. The voice was sharp and clear. Second senior brother. Yu Shangrong smiled faintly and said, little junior sister. He stood up slowly, picked up his longevity sword, and walked out of the cave of reflection. Little Yuanair was standing outside the cave under the moonlight. She had been happy, but when she saw Yu Shangrong's silver hair, she was shocked and worried. She said, second senior brother, your hair. I'm all right. Yu Shangrong walked up to little Yuanair. He looked up at the starry sky and moon with its gentle glow. Then, he shifted his gaze to little Yuanair. You seem to have grown taller. Little Yuanair giggled. Well, it's only natural for people to grow. Yes, people grow, Yu Shangrong said. The three elders and fourth senior brother are messing around. I had nothing else to do, so I decided to visit you. Little Yuanair said. At this moment, Hua Woodal was flying across the sky with his 7-leaf avatar and 6 compatible seal. When he sensed some movement at the cave of reflection, he hovered in the air and looked down. Yu Shangrong did not even look up as he spoke. He's dead. He's inside the cave of reflection. Hua Woodal was slightly shocked and made a move to descend. He was shocked when he saw the dead Jiang Liang. He stooped down to inspect the wound on Jiang Liang's body. When he confirmed that it was left by a sword, he was filled with fright. Yu Shangrong's cultivation base had been sealed. Naturally, Hua Woodal knew that Jiang Liang was a nascent divinity tribulation realm elite. Even if he was injured, he was not someone who could be killed by a person without a cultivation base. How did Yu Shangrong manage it? Hua Woodal turned and looked at Yu Shangrong, who was backlit by the moonlight. Half of Yu Shangrong had turned white, but his expression remained calm as though nothing was different. Hua Woodal could not make heads or tails out of it, so he decided to give up guessing. He left the cave of reflection for a moment and notified the others to move the body away. When little Yuanair saw the corpse, she was also shocked. She said, second senior brother, you killed him. Yu Shangrong nodded faintly. When he returned, Hua Woodal cupped his fists. May I ask, how you killed Jiang Liang? Mr. Second, with a mighty swing of my sword. Yu Shangrong replied nonchalantly, quote. There was no flaw in that answer. Having inspected the wound, Hua Woodal felt now that his question was meaningless. I'm enlightened. Hua Woodal cupped his hands slightly, turned around, and left. Little Yuanair gave Yu Shangrong a thumbs up. She giggled and said, that's amazing. Second senior brother. Second senior brother. Just how amazing are you? That question stumped Yu Shangrong. After giving it some thought, he replied honestly, I'm just slightly less amazing than master. Slightly less? Well, maybe a little more. So, which is it? Little Yuanair looked at him, clearly not planning to give up until she had her answer. That's not important. Yu Shangrong walked away from the moonlight and went under the shadows of the trees. This view reminded little Yuaner of a certain person. Hence, she said, second senior brother, sixth senior sister's hair is actually whiter than yours. Yu Shangrong turned around and said, Yi Tiangson. When little Yuaner thought about Yi Tiangson, she became dejected. She said, senior sister Tiangson has it rough. Alas, she's been driven out by master. Yu Shangrong smiled. That kindness of yours is rare. Little junior sister. Thank you, second senior brother. Little Yuaner said. Yu Shangrong noticed that something was not right with her clothes. He asked in confusion, is the cloud feather raiment not good? No, it's great, but master won't let me wear it. He says that it's getting in the way of my improvement and cultivation base. Little Yuaner replied, master's right. Little Yuaner said proudly, I've made some huge improvements lately. Second senior brother, let's spar. I couldn't even touch you back then, but I'm sure that I can now. Yu Shangrong, quote. Before he could reply, a 10-foot avatar appeared behind little Yuaner. It was as quick-witted and cute as its owner. Yu Shangrong regarded the avatar with a slightly shocked expression. He spoke softly, congratulations, little junior sister. She's able to enter the nascent divinity tribulation realm and form 100 tribulations insight avatar in such a short time. She has even sprouted one leaf. Perhaps, in the near future, little junior sister would really be able to reach the top of the cultivation world. Her future is something to look forward to. On the other hand, Yu Shangrong had completely lost his cultivation base. He shook his head. C. At this moment, an imposing voice rang in the air. Yuaner, behave yourself. Little Yuaner hastily turned around. She saw her master walking toward them under the moonlight with his hands on his back. She bowed hastily. Master. Yu Shangrong was slightly taken aback. He went to his little senior sister's side and bowed as well. Lu Zhou looked at Yu Shangrong's hair. He turned to little Yuaner and said, Yuaner, I have something to speak about to your second senior brother. Give us some privacy. Although little Yuaner was slightly unwilling, she always did as she was told. She turned to look at Yu Shangrong before she waved her hands and said, second senior brother, let's spar in the future. I'll be going now. Yu Shangrong nodded. After little Yuaner left, Lu Zhou extended his hand and said tonelessly, the longevity sword. Yu Shangrong knew that he could not resist. Yet, he hesitated slightly before he finally placed the longevity sword in his master's hand. When Lu Zhou touched the longevity sword, he gauged the energy within it. It was practically empty. Lu Zhou tossed the sword back to Yu Shangrong and said, don't you feel regretful? You could have lived for another 200 years. He was sure that Yu Shangrong had used the remaining power inside the sword to kill Jiang Liang. The longevity sword, like its name suggested, could prolong one's life and stave off death for a while. Yu Shangrong appeared calm as he said, I have never regretted the strokes of my sword. In the past, the present, or future, I will never regret it. With his hands on his back, Lu Zhou asked, at this point, do you still think that I'm trying to kill you? Yu Shangrong was stunned, although they had not spoken much ever since they were in Radiant Cloud Forest. He could clearly sense his master's change. After mulling it over, he replied, there's no guarantee of what might happen in the future. The future? How much longer can you live? What future are you talking about? Lu Zhou retorted. Yu Shangrong was momentarily stumped. After some time, he said, you said that you'll kick down the doors of the 9-leaf stage. Lu Zhou looked up at the sky and the moon that was shining brightly. He sighed, shook his head, and said, no matter what I did, that's all in the past. Yu Shangrong did not know what he was supposed to say. When he heard this, the animosity he felt in the past rose again, reminding him of what had happened in the past. In the end, he chose to keep quiet. At this moment, Lu Zhou turned around slowly and looked at Yu Shangrong. There must be a reason why I tried to kill you in the past. Regardless, you're still my disciple. Your hair has already turned white. Once you've thought things through, come to the Eastern Pavilion. He did not wait for Yu Shangrong's reply and turned to leave the cave of reflection as soon as he finished speaking. A long time, with the moonlight still shining on him, Yu Shangrong tightly gripped his longevity sword with his trembling finger before he entered the cave of reflection once again. Ding! Instructed Yu Shangrong. Reward: 500 merit points. Early the next morning, the The sun rose from the east as usual. When the morning rays shone into the cave of reflection, little Yuan hopped toward the entrance. She called out, "Second senior brother." "Morning, little junior sister." Yu Shangrong carried the longevity sword in his arms and walked out of the cave of reflection. At this moment, Yu Shangrong's hair was no longer partially white. They had turned completely white. Little Yuan's eyes widened in shock. She pointed at him and said, "Second senior brother, your hair, it's all right." Yu Shangrong looked up at the sun in the east and smiled in contentment. "I'll look for master." "No need." Yu Shangrong walked forward. Little Yuan stopped in her tracks. Yu Shangrong walked up to her and smiled. "Little junior sister, I've completely lost my cultivation base. If you want to spar with me, you'll have to go easy on me." "I will." Little Yuan found it difficult to speak. There was a small crowd at the Cave of Reflection now. Pan Zheng, Zhou Jifeng, Hua Yuxing, Xiao Yue, Ming Shiyin, Zhu Honggong, and several female disciples gathered around and watched Yu Shangrong. They had heard about Yu Shangrong killing a nascent divinity tribulation realm expert even with his cultivation base sealed. They had also heard about his hair turning partially white. However, now that they had seen him, they saw that his hair was completely white. His hair had turned white overnight. They knew about Yu Shangrong's lineage and whispered among themselves. The melilot grew in nobleman nation. It bloomed in the morning and wilted at night. Yu Shangrong glanced at the others. He greeted them in an elegant manner. "Morning." Everyone else cupped their hands. "Good morning, Mr. Second." Little Yuan said, "Second senior brother, I'll go ask for master's help. He'll surely find a way." "Didn't you come to spar with me?" Yu Shangrong asked. Well, little Yuan gave it some thought before replying. "All right." In the eastern pavilion of the Evil Sky Pavilion, Lu Zhou had meditated upon the heavenly writing scrolls for a whole night. He was now in high spirits. He stretched his limbs and he stood outside the eastern pavilion. At this moment, Li Yongzhao and Jiang Aijian walked over. The two of them bowed. Li Yongzhao said, "On behalf of the Empress Dowager, I thank you, old mister. After your treatment, the Empress Dowager has been feeling better. We'll return today, and I'm here to bid you farewell." Jiang Aijian stood up, bowed, and said, "I'll see him off." Lu Zhou knew what was in Jiang Aijian's mind. He said, "Li Yongzhao, when you return to the divine capital, tell them Jiang Aijian is dead. Moreover, tell the Crown Prince that the Evil Sky Pavilion will remember this." Li Yunzi bowed immediately to Kowtow, begging for forgiveness. However, Jiang Aijian said, "Save it. Don't you know the old senior's style? Go." Li Yongzhao was a person of the imperial family. After all, it was only natural for him to speak in favor of the imperial family. However, Jiang Aijian was also a member of the imperial family. Lu Huan and Lu Ji were his brothers. And yet, he did not care about them at all. Lu Zhou looked as Jiang Aijian pulled Li Yongzhao out of the eastern pavilion. He could not help but sigh. "Oh, ever-living emperor, don't you have any decent descendants?" When Li Yongzhao thought about it, that statement sounded wrong. The fourth prince, Lu Bing, was a general of the borders. He was a man with achievements. The fifth prince, Lu Hong, was timid, but he was not wicked. He almost forgot Jiang Aijian or Lu Chen. The third prince was not an evil person as well. Meanwhile, in one of the more secluded branches of the Nether sect, Yu Zhanghai was pacing back and forth. He looked at Si Wuya, who was sitting on a chair at the side, and asked, "Seventh junior brother, do you have a good plan?" Si Wuya shook his head. "I didn't expect Jiang Aijian to make this move. Now that he's hiding in the Evil Sky Pavilion, my men can't touch him. Must we capture him?" Yu Zhanghai asked. "Jiang Aijian is Great Yan's third prince. He's deeply loved by the Empress Dowager. If we can capture him, the Nether sect will have another chip to play. Alas, he's too cunning." Si Wuya replied. Yu Zhanghai said, "The barrier in Golden Court Mountain is gone. You have elites like the Five Mice among your men. Can't they think of a way to sneak in and kill Jiang Aijian?" "That's impossible." Si Wuya recalled the scene of the blooming blue lotus. Si Wuya. "We can't kill Jiang Aijian. Master's clearly protecting him. Also, from the mole I planted around the Crown Prince, I learned that the Crown Prince had sent an assassin to kill him. The Crown Prince wants to kill the third prince. The Crown Prince must be unaware that Jiang Aijian is the third prince. He's merely trying to avenge Lu Huan to gain a good reputation." Si Wuya replied. Upon hearing this, Yu Zhenghai seemed amused. He laughed and stepped forward to smack Si Wuya's shoulder. Si Wuya frowned, confused. Yu Zhenghai said, "Sometimes, I wonder how you've got all these connections in the palace." Si Wuya, N-O-V-E, in.C, Don't be shy, I won't laugh, Yu Zhenghai said. Si Wuya appeared awkward as he remained silent. So, it's really Princess Yongning? When Princess Yongning was mentioned, Si Wuya shook his head and said, "You've misunderstood, eldest senior brother, there's nothing between us." Yu Zhenghai gave him a meaningful look. He nodded and said, "It's no wonder that Han Yuyuan is afraid to touch you. What a wonderful lady, and yet, you're not satisfied. Junior brother, you should consider lowering your standards slightly." Si Wuya was speechless. He changed the topic at once. "Let's talk about the Nether sect's upcoming plans." "That's good, it's just what I wanted." Yu Zhenghai was immediately invigorated. He no longer entertained himself with romantic affairs. A table was prepared, and a map was spread on it. Si Wuya pointed to where Liang province was. 7 days passed in just a blink of an eye. After getting 10, "thank you," messages in a row, Lu Zhou exited the room. He wanted to get some fresh air. As expected, he should not put too much hope in the lucky draws. It was one thing to obtain various items at the end, but it was different to lose everything he possessed. As he was stretching his limbs, little Yuaner appeared and said, Master, second senior brother has been staying in the cave of reflection for many days now. I'm worried about him. Can you go and have a look at him?" Lu Zhou frowned. "It's been 7 days. Is he still struggling with his thoughts? What's the situation? His hair has turned completely white the other day. Now, he's in a poor state. I don't think he can even lift his sword." Lu Zhou turned around slowly. At this moment, Ming Shiyin, Zhao Yue, Zhu Honggong, Pan Zheng, Zhou Jifeng, and the female disciples swarmed into the eastern pavilion. With a collective thud, they fell to their knees. It seemed obviously rehearsed. "Please do something, Master." Lu Zhou looked at everyone as he stroked his beard and said, "You're pleading on that rascal's behalf." Ming Shiyin said, "Although second senior brother has done wrong, he has killed many who coveted the evil Sky Pavilion's possessions over the years. Please do something, Master." The others bowed as well. Lu Zhou shook his head and said, "If anyone should beg, it should be him, Master." Silence. Lu Zhou said in a deep voice, "If I were merciful, do you think the evil Sky Pavilion would be where it is today? Tell him that if he wants to die, I'll let him die." With a wave of his sleeve, Lu Zhou returned to the eastern pavilion. He was not Ming Shiyin. He was not Zhao Yue. He was not one of the fellow disciples. He was the master of the evil Sky Pavilion. The others were rooted to the spots. Lu Zhou's words rang in their ears. If he had been merciful, the evil Sky Pavilion would have been destroyed a long time ago. If everyone behaved in this manner, who would be responsible for the next traitor? Their master was right. If he accepted their plea made on the traitor's behalf, their master would not be able to maintain the evil Sky Pavilion as it was. Moreover, Yu Shangrong had fought against their eldest senior brother and stayed idle when the evil Sky Pavilion was under siege. He was not without fault. Their master had already fulfilled all his moral obligations by being this tolerant. At this moment, Duan Musheng walked in. When he saw everyone kneeling, he sighed. "Third senior brother, do you have a plan?" Ming Shiyin asked. "Actually, Master's right. Since the founding of the evil Sky Pavilion until now, if Master has been merciful or soft-hearted, we wouldn't be here today. Didn't Master personally fend off the 10 great sects when they laid siege on Golden Court Mountain back then?" Ming Shiyin sighed and nodded. "However, we can't just stay idle." Zhao Yue said, "Fourth senior brother, think of something. There is a way, but it'll be difficult." Ming Shiyin looked around himself. The others looked at Ming Shiyin. Ming Shiyin said, "The Empress Dowager has given Master a longevity pill as a gift. And the pill is in Master's possession. The only thing that can save second senior brother is that pill. However, Master is well advanced in age. He'll surely treasure the pill. What we're doing is forcing Master to give it up. I'm already surprised enough that we weren't given a proper scolding by Master. Get up, everyone, let's go out." Everyone nodded upon hearing Ming Shiyin's words. The pavilion master's great limit was near. He was also searching for a way to extend his life, even if the longevity pill would not be of much help to him. It was not enough of a reason to simply give it away. Outside the pavilion, Ming Shi Yin said, "If there's nothing else, we should call it a day. Little junior sister, come with me to the cave of reflection." Oh, the others cooperated well. Everyone left. Ming Shi Yin and little Yuan walked toward the back of the mountain along the corridor outside the northern pavilion. They reached the cave of reflection. Ming Shi Yin bowed and said, "Greetings, second senior brother." Little Yuan followed suit and said, "Greetings, second senior brother." This time, Yu Shangrong did not emerge. Instead, he said, "Come in." His voice was gentle and soft as usual. As cultivators, Ming Shi Yin and little Yuan could hear his subdued tone. The two of them entered the cave of reflection. When they saw their second senior brother sitting cross-legged there, they bowed again. "Fourth junior brother, little junior sister, have a seat." Yu Shangrong smiled. "Second senior brother, why do you have to go so far?" Ming Shi Yin did not sit down before he spoke. Yu Shangrong looked at Ming Shi Yin and said, "We're fellow disciples. There's no need to beat around the bush. Just say what's on your mind." Ming Shi Yin took a deep breath and mustered his courage and said, "Second senior brother, listen to me. I can see that master values the bond between the two of you. He wouldn't have allowed you to remain here peacefully otherwise." He looked at the cave of reflection's environment. It was cold and crude. However, compared to the previous punishments, this was a very light one. "What else do you have to say?" "Master has one longevity pill. It'll be able to solve your problem. I don't know what happened in the past, but is it more important than your life?" Ming Shi Yin asked. Yu Shangrong fell silent. Ming Shi Yin suddenly felt that his second senior brother was not against being advised. Hence, he continued earnestly, "Master is quite different from the person he was before. Not only did he grant me the separation hook, but he even gave little junior sister the Nirvana sash. Even old eighth got a set of boxing gloves." Yes, little Yuan flashed her Nirvana sash. The scarlet Nirvana sash danced before her. This was a high-quality heaven-grade weapon. Although her affinity with it was not at its peak, Yu Shangrong could sense the uniqueness of this weapon. Yu Shangrong looked at the two of them and said, "If Master wants to kill you, how would you feel? The thing is, you're living peacefully now," Ming Shi Yin said. Yu Shangrong was stumped. Ming Shi Yin said, "Second senior brother, forgive me for being blunt, but with Master's cultivation base, if he wants to kill you, you would have been long dead. You couldn't have possibly lived until this day." He knew that these words might provoke Yu Shangrong. However, it was better to be clear about such matters. His words were on point. Yu Shangrong's heart skipped a beat. He had been nonchalant before this. Now, a frown could be seen on his face. "Don't you believe me, second senior brother?" Ming Shi Yin asked. "I do." After a while, he only said, "Fourth junior brother, little junior sister, you can go now." "All right." Ming Shi Yin made no further attempts to persuade him. He looked at little Yuan meaningfully. The two of them left the cave of reflection and went to the southern pavilion. Little Yuan asked, "Fourth senior brother, will second senior brother die?" "He won't." "Why's that?" "Second senior brother isn't a petty or stubborn man. I've been clear with my words. Now, it's all up to masters." Ming Shi Yin said. Night came. Lu Zhou felt as though he had reached a bottleneck in his cultivation. Although it was not difficult to raise his cultivation base, he needed the necessary insight to do so. He had to search his memories and the secrets of the 9-leaf stage. He glanced at his remaining life. 6.864 days. Based on what he knew now, it was certain that attaining the 9-leaf stage would shorten his lifespan. In that case, the 6.000 or so days would not be enough. Merit points, 24.250. If he could obtain 10 worlds, he would be able to enter the nascent divinity tribulation realm and start sprouting leaves. After giving it some thought, Lu Zhou made another 10 consecutive draws. His luck points were now at 20. The feelings of men were strange. When he heard the "thank you" messages, he always had this feeling that he would succeed on the next draw. Lucky draw. Ding. Spent 50 merit points. Spent 20 luck points. Obtained reversal card x10. Nice. I'm not an African chieftain. Currently, Lu Zhou felt that he could accept any other result aside from the "thank you" message. It was good that he had more reversal cards. It would be helpful in his preparation to attempt to break through to the 9-leaf stage. I should stop now. After making the draws, Lu Zhou checked his items. He now had 31 reversal cards. Greetings, Master. Yu Shangrong's voice reached him. He was kneeling. Lu Zhou's expression was apathetic. He did not go out. He remained seated, cross-legged, on the floor as he stroked his beard and said, "Have you thought things through?" "I wish to live," Yu Shangrong replied. His tone seemed more spirited now. "Come in." With his master's permission, Yu Shangrong pushed the doors open and entered. Creak. Lu Zhou looked stern and imposing under the light. He pointed at the cushion opposite himself. "Sit." Upon thinking about it, Yu Shangrong realized he had never had a sit-down conversation with his master before. Perhaps, fourth junior brother is right. He sat opposite his master and placed his longevity sword by his side. Lu Zhou's gaze was deep. He looked at Yu Shangrong and said, "Did I really intend to kill you back then?" This question immediately caused the atmosphere inside the pavilion to freeze over. However, Yu Shangrong seemed unfazed. He nodded decisively. "Reason? You wanted to attain the 9-leaf stage." Yu Shangrong felt his finger trembling. He could not seem to still them. He continued to say, "Eldest senior brother and I had no other choice but to leave." Lu Zhou's expression was calm. But inwardly, she was puzzled. Attain the 9-leaf stage by killing my own disciples. What kind of logic is that? Clearly, there were more complicated procedures involved. Yu Shangrong met Lu Zhou's gaze and said honestly, "The people of Nobleman Nation live during the day and die by nightfall. However, we have a certain ability." He paused slightly before continuing. "We can take lives to extend our own. Perhaps, you wanted that ability, Master." When he heard this, Lu Zhou did not find it strange at all. He had his own guesses before this. Now, his guesses were confirmed. If that was the case, what about Yu Zhenghai? Is this the case with Yu Zhenghai as well? All I know is that eldest senior brother is tough. We'll have to ask him about the other details. The master and disciple both knew what the other was thinking about. After a moment of silence, Yu Shangrong said, "Seventh junior brother said that you sealed your memories in a crystal. Perhaps, the answer you seek is in the crystal." The room was extremely quiet. The silence was palpable. "So, this is the reason for the lost memories." Lu Zhou stroked his beard instinctively and asked, "Where's the crystal?" "I don't know," Yu Shangrong answered. "However, previously, you traveled to many places. From Rongbei to Rongshi." Lu Zhou asked, "Aren't you worried that I might try to kill you again once I regain my memories?" "Fourth junior brother has said that with your cultivation base, if you truly want to kill me and eldest senior brother, it would be a simple task." Yu Shangrong replied, "There are many things." Lu Zhou nodded and said, "Continue." "You like to beat eldest senior brother up. And you always made him man the helm. You sparred with the sword with me alone. You made seventh junior brother massage your feet often. And you." Before Yu Shangrong finished speaking, Lu Zhou raised an arm to interject him. "There's no need to mention anything that's unrelated to the 9-leaf stage." "Understood." Yu Shangrong said nothing else. Judging by his looks, he's done talking about the 9-leaf stage. Lu Zhou looked at Yu Shangrong. He waited for him to continue. He kept looking until Yu Shangrong lowered his head. He appraised his own clothes and hair. He felt ill at ease. It makes sense. If Yu Shangrong has learned about the secrets of the 9-leaf stage, he wouldn't still be at the 8-leaf stage, let alone be in this state with his white hair. The room was silent once more. After an unknown amount of time had passed, Yu Shangrong leaned forward. He broke the silence by saying, "I wish to live." Strange. The look Lu Zhou was giving him was not one of indignance but one of reassurance. Falling sick and dying were all parts of the cycle of life. Everyone would die. However, only by living could one continue to find the reason to keep on living, hope. "I'm glad you've thought things through." Lu Zhou waved his hand. The brocade box on the table beside him flew to Yu Shangrong's side. "I'll grant you this longevity pill. I hope that you'll live on." He emphasized the words, "live on." Yu Shangrong trembled slightly when he heard those words that gave him hope. Something stirred in him. He kowtowed. There were no flattering words nor dramatic gestures. There was no need for unnecessary explanations and expressions. "This disciple pays his respects," was all he said.